Hi everyone, how are you? It is a Sunday afternoon. I got a little extra time. I told my husband to wake me up because if he doesn't, I just will sleep. Um, I am fortunate enough to not have to work right now outside the home. I have my little side projects that I make money on, by my my reselling because I love going to the Goodwill. So I feel like I'm doing the world good by finding treasures and putting them on the intranet after I've cleaned them up and sending them to a person wherever in the world they are. But they want that particular item. I'm saving it from the landfill. I love it, but where I go to the Goodwill outlet. And if you're not familiar with that, that is the place where everything that has a flaw, is in a bag they don't want to sort, whatever goes into where they don't think it's somehow good enough to be put on the shelves of the Goodwill. It's donated. Okay, so for whatever reason, I mean, you would not believe the things I find there, right? For whatever reason, they feel it's not good enough. So it's all put in these bins, these tables that are waist high. And there are um, heaps of them, and then they dump them, and then you have to all stand back until they say you can go, and then you start going through this one. When they do that to that side where they're dumping new, I go to the complete opposite and just start looking through other bins that everybody's away from because my adrenaline, it does not need to get that high fighting and grabbing. I mean, it's like, yeah, I'm probably missing out on some really good stuff, but I find my own share of incredible things. Those of you who are into like vintage coach, yeah, those kinds of vintage coach that aren't good enough, they don't, people who are just sorting them think, oh, look at that ugly old faded purse. Yeah, I found some incredible original New York City bags. Um, Coach, so just beautiful that just need to find the right owner to go in and re-dye them. I do a fair amount of rehabbing, the purses to the effect that, I will clean them and moisturize them, but I'm not into the whole dyeing and everything. I just feel like I sell them so that then somebody can re-dye it in the way that they want, and then I don't know. I do that to a point, but I mean, otherwise, I find just the most incredible clothes there that my kids have been absolutely spoiled. We don't need to buy anything, we honestly, because I find everything at the Goodwill. So, in that though, you because I'm relatively short, I still have to, dive in, and sometimes my feet come off the ground when I'm, a little overzealous about trying to reach something, and it's really hard on my shoulder. So, my husband has forbidden me from going to the Goodwill outlet for almost another 2 weeks. I think he'll let me in 2 weeks because he's just like, you are not gonna undo that shoulder. You're not gonna undo it. And I got my splint off a week ago, a week, and I've just been crazy around here. I'm already so far ahead of my physical therapy, but when I lay down at night, the pain catches up with me, and it's so freaking bad. So, um, I'm just selling everything that I still have on hand because I make myself have everything put up for sale before I let myself get new stock. And I went right before the surgery, so I'd have things that were here for me to list for sale while I was healing as much as I can, so I can say, you know what, I'm going to buy it and I'll put it up. So that's what I generally do to be a better steward of the planet. On the weekends and all that good stuff. Um, so I don't have a set wake up time. And my natural body clock loves to stay up until like 5 and then sleep incredible from 5:30 to 5:30 the next day, 7 p.m. the next day. So I have to have him wake me up at like 2 or something, and sit there with me, and get me to wake up, because if he just does a nice tap on the shoulder and says wake up, you asked me to, I'll go right back to sleep. So I'm a lady of leisure right now, and I love it. I love it. So anyway, you guys are too good. You guys are amazing students of the University of Tabitha Jane. I am so proud of you. What you may not know about me is that I am casting a net. So sometimes when I place this information for you guys to see, I'm casting a net, and I'm asking questions to get you guys to think about the answers on your own, so that you're better able to face the accusatory nature that people will come at you with when you try to impart knowledge on the Watts case. The second that you try to say something against the narrative that has been pre-planned and is in place, you will be accused of bashing a dead woman, bashing dead children, saying that it's Shanann's fault that she got unalived. And you are in no way, shape or form doing that. You are not a person who would go and bash a dead woman, bash on that, and then they'll say the Roos want this to go away, so why can't you let them grieve? No. The Roos are behind several online sources that put out content every single day that continues their narrative. Okay? So, what I deal with, which I don't show you guys everything, I get a lot of that. Why can't you stop? Don't you know this? Don't you know this? And so a lot of what I see and what I get is that the Watts are greedy, and they did this, they did that, they did this. And when I tried to source out some of the buzzwords, because there is rhetoric, there's absolutely, these people are Fox News watchers. I occasionally watch the Fox News. I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying that they are used to almost a political type movement, in this case and others, where they have certain phrases, certain buzzwords that they say. So if I go and I tease back out what they say, I find it. And I found this person who's blabbing there, sitting on a couch, and she has a channel, Live Abuse Free. So people who are abused would go to her as this beacon of light, like they're drowning in the water, and they see this lighthouse, and she's like, do you want to live abuse free? Come to me, and I'll give you truth and whatnot. And sadly, she's mistaken in how the abuse was in the Watts marriage. Okay? So what she is doing, she's got 130 subs. Okay? And she has this thing out there that says the Watts sued for Shanann's insurance money because the Watts felt inferior to the Roos. And you go down there, and every village idiot is in the comments saying, all monies go to the Roos. They need this, they need that, they deserve this. Okay? So the problem is that then we've got 130,000, and then all of them that go onto the internet and back to their villages. Once the alarm goes off that the village idiot is missing, they go back to the village and they tell the village, oh yeah, I just found out that the Watts are very bad people, and they sued. Can you believe that? They sued for the insurance money. Look at that. They're trying to profit from the unaliving of their grandchildren. Oh my god, let's stone them to death in town square. Okay? Right now what I've done is I've built an army of you, and we are, let me check here, 175 strong, of people who value the truth, of people who look past the black and white, of people who see that there is gray and like to have a discussion, a conversation, sometimes a spirited debate, but you guys are not the type of people who are just going to go and put down one sentence and run and feel like, oh, okay, you've just slammed down somebody who started to ask questions. Good for you. You don't want any heretics around here. You want to keep the regime down or up. So what I did is I put up the document that shows how fast the ruse went to do their wrongful death suit against Christopher Watts. In doing so, I prefaced that in telling you exactly this, that, you know what, if this happened, let me know. This is what I see. Okay? Remember, you guys are in the University of Tabitha Jane. You guys are my students. It's my role as a creator who has a platform right now to help you guys go and think about where you heard misinformation before and how you're now seeing it. And what you guys did was that then you guys went into the intranet and you guys came to me with information to show blah, blah, blah. Because we all know how this ends. We all know that the ruse won a $6 million wrongful death suit against Christopher Watts. We all know that. Okay, I wasn't going to go and do that, but you guys are so smart. You guys are sending me it, and I know you guys know. But what I wanted you guys to do was start to see this. So then you guys would go and you would bring that back up in search engines, which starts to bring that back up, which brings these things to light. So then other people will start to see the truth as well. What I could not have asked for was the way that the feed went. And the feed went and put that certain creator's channel, something about hers, right above the one that I just did, showing the filing of the ruse against Chris Watts. It was beautiful. I'm going to put that screenshot on my community post because I couldn't have asked for anything better, because I'm against millions. If I had went with the popular narrative of saying, oh yes, oh yes, oh yes, Shanann was a wonderful mom and this shouldn't have happened, and it's just because Christopher went and got his dick wet somewhere else when she was out of town and he couldn't control himself because he's a man, and men do those bad things, and we women were just so good, we do everything, and she was doing everything, and she was earning an income equal to and better than his, and she did all of this for the family, and she just wanted to go and help other people. You know that I would be monetized by now, and I'd probably be 30 to 60,000 subs strong, because it's easy to find people who don't look past headlines. That's why headlines sell. That's why mainstream media continues the narrative that they do, because they are out to make money as the bottom line. I've not made a cent, as you all know. You all know the work that I put behind my videos. It may sound to you that I'm just going off the cuff and whatnot, that's because I've got a photographic memory to some extent. And so I go through and I go and I think and I write my notes and I research and I do this and I think and I write down my thoughts as I wake up and stuff. And then I can just kind of roll into talking to you guys. But there is time and effort put behind everything. So, if we put in all the time that I put in, some of the money that I put into, procuring documents, etc., etc. You guys know I'm in the hole now, probably about $3,000. So this is my time. This is my money. I'm not making a cent on this, and it's important to me that is stated to this point, because I am building quality people that stand with me as we go to try to find the truth, so that our world is a better place than headlines that make money, because money is greed, money is power, and we have a problem with greed and power, because what does that lead to? Leads to nothing good. Watch The Handmaid's Tale. And I'm so glad that a couple of you are starting to watch The Handmaid's Tale too, because I'm telling you, we don't watch it, Our world's gonna become Gilead. And we have to ask the questions. I want you to be better prepared. So when you see things on Reddit, when you see things in another creator's thing, and you see the other creator who's trying to show the truth getting jumped on, I don't want you guys to have adrenaline rushes and have your day ruined or anything. But I do want you to be confident enough to respond appropriately and say, actually, that's the opposite of the truth. This is what happened. Here's where you can find it. Because the narrative out there right now that the Watts are greedy, money grubbing, this woman puts it in there with this narrative saying that the Watts felt inferior to the Ruse. And so because of their inferiority complex, they try to get money. And people believe that are believing the basics. And believe me, when I first got that, dose of you're bashing a dead woman and everything, I was like, how dare you accuse me of that? What are you doing? And I watched this person single-handedly go and change the tide of the whole comment trajectory on this creator's site to then people were like, oh yeah, and I was a friend of SW, and then it was like, oh gosh, bless you, blessings on you, oh gosh, I hope you're okay. And everybody started tiptoeing. This person didn't know her. They're just trolling because one person comes in there and oh gosh, this is more than I can take. Oh. And so then, I got a big dose of it when I was on the panel there, and I've not went back. I appreciate that creator. I love what she's, about and how hard she tried in the beginning before they took her down and controlled her narrative. Because when I was on the panel that night, you guys all heard, it was alligator wrestling. I was getting bashed, and it was two of them. It was two of them who have taken over, in my opinion, the way that she was going so well in showing what she could do, because she's a very talented and intelligent lady. Now, hers is just one of many. If you see something coming across the feed, I don't expect you guys to, engage with it at all. That's not what I'm saying. But and one of you said in the comments as well that all of the drama needs to go. The drama and the hurt feelings and whatnot has to go so that the truth can be figured out. And that's what I want. Right now, my position on Dollgate is what the discovery says that I narrated. Okay? Because I narrated that and I showed that, I am standing with what that says, because to this point I have not seen concrete evidence that shows me something different. That does not mean that it's a personal battle when somebody has seen something different, heard another creator do it, or what they personally believe. Okay? It is not, oh, I don't agree with you, or you're wrong. I hate that when people go, you're wrong. No, we have to look at this as if we were in a jury. I am not a member of the Watts family or the Ruse family, so this is not personal. This is a bigger thing for me in fighting for a better world that has truth in a fair and just system to protect my legacy as it goes forward, to hope that no innocent person is ever put in a cage. So, Dollgate, the copy of the discovery that I have, shows that this phone that they have, and they have the tracking number on it that shows that this is Christopher Watts' phone, that he just dumped some pictures of NK into the secret calculator. He did this. Well, he was watching the girls. SW was in Arizona at the time, according to this part of the discovery that I showed. So, Christopher Watts then, on the same phone that he just dumped images of NK into his secret calculator, then took a picture of the doll with the blanket or twister game, whatever, wrapped around the doll's head with the feet up. Very odd. Very, very odd. Something out of a horror movie. It is not a natural thing for a child to do. Now, the discovery showed that I have narrated, that I have shown. It shows from that where it shows that he took the picture, he then sent the picture to Shanann and said, something like, I don't know what to think about, or what, blah, 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 blah. And then Shanann responded 2 hours later from Arizona and said, LOL, I don't know what to think, whatever. So then it shows that she sent something to her friend Sarah, which was a copy of the letter that she wrote, like she was a teenager being all sweet and, oh, Christopher, I love you, showing this letter that she left him. Okay. All that did, though, was show that Christopher Watts took the picture. Christopher Watts sent it to Shanann. It was then on Shanann's Facebook. So probably Christopher sent it to her. Okay, based on the discovery, I'm saying probably it went from his phone while he was taking care of the girls to her, to where she must have put on the Facebook. Papa Ronnie brought it up saying that he saw it on the Facebook, on Shanann's Facebook, so he thinks something was weird, that Shanann did something weird, because he, from this trajectory on the discovery, saying that Christopher Watts took the picture, sent it to Shanann, Shanann posted on her Facebook, because at that time Christopher Watts did not have a Facebook. Okay? So, from there, that is what I have. That is what I narrated. That is where it shows her phone coded, his phone coded. That's where I have this and that. So, other creators absolutely say that that is not true, and they have their reasoning for what they've seen somewhere else, or their entire opinion that the whole discovery is staged. I am about at that point, okay? But for right now, I'm playing the part of a juror or a defense attorney or even the prosecutor. Because what I would want, if this was to go to trial, I would want this to go to trial as it is stated in that discovery. I would want that picture in. I would want it as it is stated. It doesn't matter if I personally don't feel that it did or did not come that way. I want it in and can stand and say, well, this is where it went, this is where it is at. Because what I would then get out of that is I would then get the person who authored that part of the discovery on the witness stand. Because as I was narrating it, it didn't feel right. It felt as if the person putting this information down was not a straight technician doing a dump of a phone log, as was the job. That was the assignment. This person failed the assignment given to them. Now we have part of the bigger narrative, part of the bigger rhetoric. Okay? So, what I would want is him on the witness stand, him or her, to say, okay, so, was it your assignment to take these phones and unload the data? Yes, no. Upon doing so, how did you label each phone? Well, each phone has this. And can you tell me what these numbers state? Okay, so this number would state what? And can you prove the location from that? How did you get the time? How do you know this was sent by this person at this time? How do you know this was received by this person at this time? They'll sit there, they'll show this and that, or they won't. And then you go, okay, so when you give the opinion that this was something that he was hiding, or this was behavior like he always did, or this was missing, is that factual or is that your opinion? Was your opinion part of what you were assigned to do as a technician emptying a phone log? Yes or no? Okay. Then you go to, do you have personal feelings? Do you have personal knowledge of this? Were you told to show this went this way? Certainly, we're not seeing everything that was said on both sides. Why are some things omitted and some things inserted? Were you told to pay special attention to this picture? Were you told to say, yeah, and you would break it down to that, and you would see if this picture was indeed sent by Christopher, who was at that time caring for the girls because she was on one of her never-ending trips, and that's why he sent it from her phone. He sent it from his phone to her phone, which then she put on Facebook. That is how it goes in a trial. Now, what is happening more and more is that 80%, it's estimated that 80% of what is material evidence is not even going to the juror's eyes, because you would have somebody on the other side fighting me just as hard, saying that, why do we care about this picture? It's child's play. What do we care about this? And then you say, well, is it child's play? Is it normal for a child to cover up the face in a way that they didn't drop a blanket, that it was intentional? Then you get into this and the judge decides, hey, this is going to cause too many questions. Let's get it out of here. We don't even want to talk about dollgate. Or then it leads to that tree that goes down. And it said, and it would then, speak to, let's bring in a child psychologist. Let's bring in an expert on whether or not a child, if you were a child psychologist and you were having a dollhouse and you were watching the child play to try to understand the dynamics of what this child may have observed, how this child sees the mommy and daddy and siblings play, emulating that behavior with dolls. And all of a sudden you see the child go and look for a little cloth, a white cloth, and goes and wraps the head of the doll and then puts the doll in there with the feet up. Have you ever seen that before in your experience and capacity as a child behaviorist, specialist, as a child psychologist, whatever you want to get into? And they may say, yes, happens all the time. Otherwise, they'd say, no, not in my whole freaking career. In the way that the child then wrapped this cloth, which we would not have sadly, we don't have the experience of asking Bella why she did that. But if you were a child psychiatrist and you had observed children doing that, what did the child say they were doing? And why, in your experience? And then you would get that all the way down, because the bigger issue is, where was that behavior observed? It is a fact that Shanann had taken the girls to North Carolina. So she was the one solely parenting those girls for 6 weeks. Now we know that she went on 2 more little MLM getaways. So she was on an airplane twice for that. So she left the kids with the Ruse, which the Ruse had lived with them for 16 months prior. So somebody who really wants to get into it could say that, you know what? You can't say that it was SW who may have been doing that, because in fact, those kids were being watched by their grandmother, the Rue. Okay? Well, then you do have an alive witness in which you could put on the trial, in the trial, and say, Grandma Rue, Did you ever observe the girls doing this with their dolls? Have you ever done that to a doll or a child, etc., etc.? And then you're getting a bigger story. That's what's happening. That's what I'm trying to create in my platform that I have here. I want you guys to become better equipped to think more critically, to argue more intelligently, to speak eloquently and articulate all of the points when you are under attack and accused of bashing somebody. Because that's how these trolls have gotten away with their narrative. They say something obscene, you see the everybody else then likes it and says, yeah, 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 look at you doing this, you're horrible, you're horrible, you're horrible, you're horrible, shame, 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 shame. And then you just leave the freaking chat and you let them do what they're doing. And then that gains more and more subs there, because then they're getting this and this dog piles up till you have 130 village idiots going around creating a narrative that the Watts are greedy people. When in fact, when we want to line up and do the definition of greed and who has made the most money and who continues to profit, it's not the Watts, folks. It's certainly not the Watts. So, this is how I'm doing things. I'm explaining it because I believe that there's some confusion in thinking that maybe I really don't know what I'm doing here. But I do. I'm just trying to get you to think. If I just go and I just sit here and, pull a oh gosh, I don't want to say the tragedy pimps are out there doing this, and the tragedy pimps would have been all over the Watts. The tragedy pimps will just sit there and say one thing over and over and chant it and grab a bullhorn and chant it and chant it and chant it and go and terrorize neighborhoods, saying these things out loud, and then everybody wants to join up with them because God, you don't want to be that house that's getting terrorized by them. You'd rather be the ones yelling because I'm trying to get you guys to build your own platform. Build your own style of thinking. Grow. Grow with me. Learn. I think that I have learned more about this case, about how bad our justice system is I started my channel, I think, in June. So what are we at? Almost 8 months? About 8 months. My learning curve in these 8 months has been greater than anything I've done in the past probably five years or so. On anything. Just really, really seeing how misleading our news is now. How they're grasping for anything to make money now. How badly controlled our speech is. And how bad the internet is and social media is. And how easily people can take over and run anybody off. It's scary. Really scary. So, something here is very personal to me is that I gave my boo some treats, and it was the kind of treats I've always given the cats. But I bought a lot more than usual, so I'd have some in my office for when I was trying to do my stuff, and I'd give the cats a little more treats than I normally would. Well, Boo, shortly after I'd given him the treats I'd normally had, but a little more, he started acting really, really crazy. And he was running around, and we were like, what is he doing? And then we heard two loud crashes, and we were trying to find him. and he had slammed his head terribly into my footboard, and then went from another wall and hit his head. And I went to, try to grab him, but he was out of control, and then he started foaming at the mouth and had a very terrible seizure. And we were getting ready to go out. So I was dressed up, and my husband's ready, we're ready to walk out the door, and he's having a seizure, and I lost my shit. I thought Boo was dying, and for all rights and purposes, he could have been. And, I threw myself on him and held him through the seizure. And I was crying and screaming so badly that the mail person dropping off the mail across the street heard my cries and yells and came to our door and started knocking to make sure everything was okay, or if she needed to call for help. One of my sons got the door and was like, no, her cat's sick. She's really, really crazy about this cat. She's just weird. Trying to think, he's just crying because he's like, what in the world? And I'm just, I'm in hysterics because I think Boo is dying. And Boo lost control of his bowels. And out of the seizure, but he was acting really bizarre. So I held him, and I was bawling, and he was okay. He started coming out of it. But he was like a person after they've had a seizure, they're post-ictal, and they just look like everything that they're seeing is what they've seen for the first time. My husband's like, he's okay. We had one of our sons, he canceled his plans then to stay home and give me updates on Boo every half an hour, and he took Boo's temperature and everything. I didn't put it together with the treats. That was the furthest thing from my mind. I was like, what happened? What happened first? Was he running before he hit his head? What happened? Blah, blah, blah. I've got my other son, on every internet forum, checking out what to do, blah, blah, blah. And it basically says that a vet isn't going to do anything unless it becomes a continued thing with seizures, blah, blah, blah. The cure for seizures in a cat is worse than them not, so they would have to have continued. So basically watch the cat. Of course, everything has to happen on a Friday night, Friday evening going into the night, blah, blah. We all know that Boo is banned from the local vet, but anyway. He was okay. When I got home, I held him. My son who stayed home with him, showed me that, he was jumping up on his normal things. He was acting fine. He straightened out. He was okay after a couple hours. Okay, so, I held him and just really, couldn't let go of my Boo for a few days. Now, right, and now he's taking a nap. And so a couple weeks goes by. I'm in my office, and I give them the same treats that I had right before I had left that night. And within 20 minutes, same thing happened. He started running around really weird, banging off the walls, had a seizure. Lost control of his bowels. Foaming at the mouth. And I didn't cry and scream this time because, well, basically my kids were like horrified at my hysterics over them because they were like, what is wrong with you? They're like, when I fell this time and we had to have an ambulance, when I did this, when I did that, you never acted like this. You clearly love Boo more than you love any of us. And I'm like, guilty as charged. I love Boo. But anyway, I was like, what in the world? And so I looked up, I was like, this is the same bag of treats that I had given him 2 weeks ago when he had the seizure. So I started Googling that brand. And I found all over the internet that those treats, people say, killed their cat, created kidney failure, created seizures, all of this all over the internet, right? All over. So I'm going, oh my God, because I'd been giving my cats this, Ma and her baby, they're 11 and 12 years old respectively. And so I'm like, am I shortening their lives and they can metabolize it because it's better. And then I'm like, no, because Scoundrella, because in some of the things it said that it created weird grooming, excessive grooming, the cat biting itself and everything. I'm like, that's what Scoundrella was doing for years. I thought she wanted a freaking Brazilian. She tore off all of her ass hairs. She had it clean as a whistle all down there. And I'm like, okay, you go, girl. I understand. You want it to be all bejeweled up too, like the kids do now. Since I had not been giving treats for a while, she was regrowing her ass hair and everything and wasn't wildly picking it off. She also had this area on her back that she'd just bite at. Then she had these sores. What do you know? They all were cleared up once I hadn't given, in the time between when I'd give the treats to when I'd give them. And I mean, and Scoundrella was really sick for a long time. And I was always giving the treats, and Daddy was giving the treats in his office and stuff. And I was like, oh my God, that was what was creating all of that in Scoundrella. And so I go and I just start to look at these chat forums of all these people who have said this. And in every single one of them, there would be a person, a troll, whatever you want to call them, that would come in and end the conversation and start tearing apart the person who said that this brand of treats, food, had caused this. And they're like, you're an idiot. You weren't watching your cat. You probably let them outside and they drank antifreeze. You're an idiot. You probably just cleaned your toilet and they drank toilet cleaner and you want to blame it on this brand. What kind of a pet parent are you and what did you do? And no, don't you know every single thing? And you see the rhetoric. And it would shut down every single forum where people would say, this is what I think killed my cat. This is what caused the seizure in my cat, etc., etc. And I was like, wow. It became very easy for me to see on each forum. It was the same thing, by different usernames, but with the same thing. So what I deducted was most likely this company owns a lot of brands under it. I'm not going to say this company, but I'm going to say that this company has the same name as one of the planets in our solar system. So what I'm saying is that company, in my opinion, allegedly, most likely, from what I saw, hired PR or some incels, if you will, to go through and be on every single chat that said something and had them shut down that narrative. Because if the people would have continued to talk, they would have continued to have gotten together. An attorney would have seen it, gotten a class action suit. So all the people who lost their pets, had vet bills, had whatever, would not come together. They were shut down. They were made to think that they were grasping. So I have not given that brand of treats now for 4 weeks. There's been no seizures. Scoundrella's letting her nether region grow out naturally again. They're begging me for the treats, and they know the cabinet that I had them in and everything, and they're throwing fits because I'm not giving them the treats. But I'm like, there's something in these, because people also observe behavior in their cats. They're like, what are in these treats? Because my cat gets all wild, and they say that, in their commercials, that the cats will do this, for this. Like, what is in it? Well, all I could really find is that there is an excessive amount of zinc in them, and zinc alone can cause seizures if it's not metabolized correctly. So there may be something in Boo, because he's not the same breed as the other two. The other two are some derivative of a Russian blue. They've each got something in them. But I think, as I've explained before, Boo is a co-rat, so he comes from a different line. He looks the same as them. It looks like I have 3 Russian blues, but he is more from the line of a monkey. He's from Thailand. You can trace back co-rats to their lineage in Thailand. They were given as gifts only in Thailand to the bride and groom at a marriage because they brought good luck. they were gifted. And then, as the legend goes, um, a Thai diplomat came over to the United States and brought their co-rats with them, and they got out and they bred, and that's how now we do have some co-rats. They're harder to find, but um, they're different. You can pick up Kisses, and she feels like a soft squishmallow. She's 12. You pick up Boo, and it's like a 35-pound taller. Kisses is like 4 pounds, and Boo is 13, but Boo's all muscle. So you can say that there's got to be something in the way their systems metabolize the treats differently. But Scoundrella has something in her that does. So whether it's long-term damage, like the people were saying, causing the kidney issues and kidney failure, or that. And you always hear of these stories of people going on vacation and their cats, going into kidney failure and dying and whatever. You're like, is it because in the house people, who are watching the cats or whatever, give them more treats and then they go into kidney failure? I don't know. I mean, it's really to go down and see what's going on with this line of food, treats, whatnot. You're welcome to email me at tabithajane0.com and I will tell you what brand. But I just don't want to say it on here because I don't want to get sued. But so you can avoid giving it to your cats as well. And it's sad. It's a huge brand, and my cats loved it. But I can't give them anything from that brand right now. But my point is that there was a bigger entity that came to shut it down. Who is the bigger entity in the Watts case that wants this shut down? They don't ever tell anything pro Shanann, pro hating Watts to shut down. They only do it if you question the big narrative. Who's behind that? Follow that. Follow that line out. Follow who's behind it. Do everything you can to find out who's behind it. That's your assignment. Just like the Wizard of Oz. Who's behind that curtain? I have an idea. And their voice is like this, and I said this, and when I woke up, it was like a sharp spin on my head. And I said, something's wrong with Shanann. Anywho, you all know that this ended up with the Ruse being awarded a $6 million wrongful death suit against Christopher Watts. Of course, then people are like, well, how can he pay that if he's behind bars? No. That number was put up there so that any and all monies ever coming in from anything goes right to the Ruse. If they would have just said, oh, okay, 100,000. Well, let's say that, the house got all this equity and something else came across that he didn't know, or he had an uncle that died that had willed him this or whatever, and that would go over that 100,000. Well, then he could have an account that then could be given to his parents, or if he ever got out, whatever. That $6 million is put in there to make sure that any and all monies that ever come in the way of Christopher Watts are given to the Ruse. Why is that not all over? Why is that not the narrative that's out there? The narrative from that person with 130,000 K has probably made another 130,000 people tell another 130,000. But where'd she get her thing? Well, I'm going to tell you what this is. So this is where some of the confusion came in, and this is confusing, and I will admit that, but this is where it starts. So, let me see here. I hope that I minimize this right. Okay, so what we have here, my friends, is what people may see and run with. So it is in the United States District Court for the District of Colorado, a civil action, number 120.TAC-CV, TAC-01598, TAC-RM, TAC-MEH, Zurich American Insurance Company, with the plaintiff. So Zurich American Life Insurance is the plaintiff, and it's versus, okay, so on the plaintiff side, they have here They have Franklin Rzucek as personal representative of the estate of Shanann Watts, et al. Defendants. Okay, so we come in here, and what this says is that this is an unopposed motion to interplead funds into the court's registry for dismissal with prejudice and for permanent injunction. Plaintiff Zurich American Life Insurance, Zurich, by and through its attorneys, Kutik Rock LLP, submits its unopposed motion to interplead funds into the court's registry for dismissal with prejudice and for permanent injunction, requesting that the court enter an order under Federal RCVP 22 and 28 USC squiggly line 2361, allowing Zurich to pay the court for deposit certain funds representing proceeds under an insurance policy for an order requiring claimants to those funds to interplead their adverse claims and not to institute or proceed with any litigation against Zurich in any state or federal court over these proceeds or that policy, and for an order discharging Zurich from any further liability under the policy and dismissing it from this action with prejudice. As grounds thereof, Zurich states as follows. Certificate of conferral pursuant to DC COLO.L.CIV.R71. The undersigned counsel certify that they conferred with counsel for all defendants who do not oppose the requested relief. Zurich initiated this action by filing a complaint for the interpleader and declaratory relief under 28 USC squiggly line 1335 to resolve a dispute between rival beneficiary claimants to the proceeds for certain supplemental A&D benefits under a group accident policy GTU 8364499. The policy issued to non-party Anadarko Petroleum Corporation, Anadarko, as the policyholder. This interpleader action was instituted due to plaintiff's uncertainty as to whom to pay the proceeds of the policy. Zurich subsequently filed a first amended complaint, document 024, adding 2 additional defendants who have indicated that they might make a claim against the policy, document 024, FAC at 24. In the first amended complaint, Zurich seeks, among other things, to interplead the rival claims to the proceeds under the policy and order restraining defendants from instituting or proceeding with any action in any state or federal court against Zurich for recovery of any amounts under the policy, an order declaring that Zurich has fulfilled its obligations to each and every person and or entity that could make a claim to the proceeds of the policy, and to be dismissed from this action and discharged from any further liability for the benefits due under the policy, document 024. Okay, so now we get to the juicy part. Factual background. In August of 2018, non-party Chris Watts, in parentheses CW, killed his wife, Shanann Watts, SW, and their 2 minor children, Celeste Catherine Watts, CCW, and Bella Marie Watts, BW. CW pleaded guilty to and was convicted of multiple counts of murder in the first degree for the killings and is now serving life in prison. I don't know who wrote that complaint, but that's not very professional anyway. I just can't find quality people anymore. Let's see. At the time of the killings, CW was employed by Anadarko. Through that employment, CW was eligible to participate in certain employee benefit programs, including one for supplemental AD&D coverage. CW chose to participate in that supplemental AD and D coverage at the principal sum of $500,000 for the accidental death benefit. CW listed SW, CCW, and BW as dependents and designated SW as the primary 100% beneficiary for that coverage. Document 024 at 11 TAC 15. A copy of CW's employee administration summary was attached as Exhibit A to the first amended complaint. Defendants are Franklin Rzucek, individually and as personal representative of the estate of SW, Sandra Rzucek, Ronnie Watts, and Cindy Watts. Here you go. So you see this. This right here may have espoused some of the rumors. As I say, the legless lizards that Chris didn't want to get in his boots grew legs and came out. That's what happens. Some little nugget of something grows legs, goes out, runs all over, has babies, into every internet forum and creates this. So they see this and they say, oh my gosh, the Watts went after the insurance policy. Look at them. They're greedy because they felt inferior. Oh my gosh. They don't say that they were in a questionable forum as to who this goes to, because those that were designated from the policy are all no longer alive, unfortunately. So this comes here. So they took that nugget. This is how I can go around and say this is possibly the way that it came out. Somebody took that, made a headline out of it, ran with it. They didn't bother to say the $6 million judgment, but we'll talk about that at some other point, okay? I'm just trying to show you how these things come out. So that's where it says the defendants are Rzucek family. Defendants are Franklin Rzucek, individually and as personal representative of the estate of SW, Sandra Rzucek, comma, Ronnie Watts, and Cindy Watts. Document 024 at 2 TAC 5. The Rzuceks are the parents of decedent SW and grandparents of decedents BW and CCW. The Watts are the parents of the imprisoned CW and the grandparents of decedents BW and CCW. Okay, so right there, this is where they're trying to say both sides lost their grandparent, grandchildren. Both sides hurt. One also lost the daughter. One also lost the son, in a manner of speaking, as he will never see the light of day unless and until he wants to stand up and fight under a 35C, then he may be able to see the light of day. They both lost. One to prison. One is responsible for making the other person not alive. But they're lining it up saying, okay, who lost more? The obvious is the ruse, right? Now, is that saying that the Watts went out and came after this insurance and they wanted that? No. It's that the insurance is looking at this and saying, what do we do? So, ask those questions. If somebody says something like, well, they did, this may be where it is espoused. Ask them for what they're talking about. Ask them to prove it to you. There may be so much out there that we don't even know that they have found, but let them do the work. The policy. Zurich issued Group Accident Policy GTU 8364499, the policy, to Anadarko. A copy of the policy was attached to Exhibit B to the first amended complaint, document 024 at 16. CW was the insured as defined in the policy. Well, SW, CCW, and BW were all covered persons and covered dependents as defined in the policy. Document 024 at 19. The policy set the principal sum for a covered dependent as a specified percentage of the insured's principal sum. The principal sum for SW as the spouse of CW was 60% of CW's principal sum, or $300,000. The principal sum for CCW and BW as dependent children of CW was 15% of CW's principal sum, or $75,000 each. Document 024 at 18-22. Zurich has acknowledged that the sum of $450,000 is payable under the policy for the deaths of SW, CCW, and BW. However, multiple claimants seek payment of this sum. Document 24. Okay? That could be that the Watts have a personal attorney and the Rzuceks have a personal attorney, and they are all aware of this policy, and they are all saying we have a right to it. They are all saying that. That is not saying that one or the other went for this, so being fair. Under the terms of the policy, when there is a covered loss that is the death of a covered person other than the insured, payment will be paid to the insured, who is in this case CW. The policy further provides that if the insured predeceases or dies at the same time as the covered person other than the insured, the benefit will be paid to the beneficiary unless the beneficiary is no longer alive. The beneficiary is no longer living at the time of death. SW was the beneficiary, but she is deceased. The policy further provides that in such cases, the benefits will be paid to the insured's estate. Okay. Now we know who's in charge of her estate. Okay. The Ruse. Because right the week after, Franklin ran in there and, right or wrong, he said, make me the power of attorney for everything so that I can take care of all of the necessary things going on with the house, the car, and everything, because you obviously can't. And Christopher Watts said, absolutely, here you go. I don't fault him for that. And I don't fault Senior Franklin for what he did at that time to take care of the affairs that needed to be taken care of. From where that went, I don't like. But anyway, for the purposes of this discussion, that's that. Under the terms of the policy, if applied as written, the benefits for the deaths of SW, CCW, and BW would be paid to CW. Document 024 at blah, blah, blah. Okay, so then let's look at this objectively. If this happened to your family, God forbid, and you are the parents of Christopher Watts, and he had worked hard every day of his life, as you had trained him to. You put him through NASCAR school. He was a mechanic until Shanann said he couldn't be a mechanic anymore, and then he took this job as a pay cut, but he did sign up for this insurance, and they're looking for who to give this money to. Why would his parents not want that money? If the insurance comes to them and says, hey, you may be the beneficiary, we're trying to figure this out. Right here, it would claim that you are, but because this is here, this is that. Maybe they wanted to have it so that they could grieve too and not have to worry about paying the bills. Maybe they wanted it too, so that they could build their own memorial that they are welcome to in their own area. Maybe they wanted to because they wanted to build a legal defense fund that would more accurately show what may have happened that night. Is that wrong? Is that greed? Let's go out there and say maybe they wanted to do it so they could take a freaking cruise. Okay, get their mind off of it. Think their mind couldn't get off of that? No. They are hurting. These people have been vilified due to no action on their part whatsoever. The Slayer Statute. Colorado prohibits the wrongful acquisition of property by someone who commits a felonious killing by statute. See Colorado statute, squiggly line, 15, TAC 11, TAC 803, the statute. And you will see this, on people who try to auction off things, blah, 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 blah. That, essentially, was like he couldn't write a book about it and profit. And that's to prevent people from doing stupid things and trying to profit. Statute focuses upon the effect of a governing instrument, which is defined to mean an instrument executed by the decedent. There is no governing instrument here, as the application/request for supplemental AD&D and the beneficiary design were executed by CW and not by any decedent. Subsection 6 of the statute contains the general guiding principle that a killer may not profit from his wrong, even if the specific terms, such as the effect of a governing instrument of the statute, do not apply. There you go. Like I say, I never peek ahead. I go through these things with you guys. And that's why I end up blabbing what it's going to say the next thing. CW as a, in quotes, killer. Like I say, that's a very unprofessional term to be used. They just can't make quality employees. Should have been as a convicted. Anyway, CW as a killer may not acquire benefits owned for the deaths of SW, CCW, and BW under this guiding principle set forth in the statute. Even if the statute did not prohibit him from receiving the benefits under the policy, CW has waived any interest in any insurance benefits. Okay? That's what people don't understand. He rolled over like a turtle or a beetle or whatever and tucked its legs inside. Won't roll over and get back up on his feet. He wants everybody just to leave him alone, and he'll tell them whatever they want because he can make up stories, just like he went to China on his vacation as a child. And he'll tell you that part after he's told you the story that he's convinced you of. Because he's sly like a fox, like that. Bottom line, he wants to be left alone. He doesn't want anything. He's not going to say he needs anything. Just wants to be left alone. CW has waived any interest in any insurance benefits. All those people out there saying that he's greedy and he's a monster and his parents espoused a monster and they're monsters as well. No. Christopher Watts has waived any interest in any insurance benefits. To the extent he is able to exercise control over disposition of such proceeds, he has directed that such benefits be paid to SW's estate, which is one of the defendant's claimants, aka Franklin Rzucek. The statute does not address whether following such direction by a killer would constitute an improper, wrongful acquisition of an interest by that killer. Document 0240 at 40. The statute also provides that a killer forfeits any benefits with respect to a decedent's estate, and that any intestate share that would otherwise go to the killer passes as if the killer had disclaimed his intestate share. As CW has no living descendants and spouse, any disclaimed share of an intestate estate would go to his parents, who are defendants hyphen claimants in this action. As we stated, they obviously were made aware of this. Why wouldn't they? Question is, why do the Roos feel that they're more entitled to it? Word entitled is very strong here. The claims against Zurich. The estate of SW, through defendant Rzucek as personal representative, has made a claim for the full benefits owed under the policy, $450,000 for all 3 deaths. Document 0284 at 42, document 020. Now, here you go. To be fair, the Watts defendants have also made a claim for the full benefits owed under the policy, $450,000 for all 3 deaths. Okay, there you go. They're both going for it now. Both. The Rzuceks, in their individual capacities, have also made a claim for the benefits owed under the policy. Okay. They're going big. They're going big. They want everything. Interpleader. 24. Fed R Civil P 22 allows a plaintiff to join as defendants persons with claims that may expose a plaintiff to double or multiple liability. This rule supplements the remedy provided by 28 U.S.C. 1335 and 2361. Section 1335 gives this court original jurisdiction over any civil action of interpleader where a party having issued a policy of insurance in the amount of $500 or more, and where 2 or more claimants of adverse citizenship are claiming the benefits of that policy. Here, the Rzuceks and the Watts are citizens of North Carolina. Well, the estate of Shanann Watts is a Colorado estate. Only this minimal diversity is required. See State Farm Fire and Cast.co v. Tasher, 386 U.S. 523, 531, 1967. Further, the benefits payable under the policy exceed $500. Under 28 U.S.C. 2361, the court may enter an order restraining claimants from instituting or prosecuting any action in any state or United States court affecting the policy involved in this interpleader action, may discharge the plaintiff from further liability, and may make the injunction permanent. Interpleader affords a party exposed to the vexation of defending multiple claims to a limited fund under its control a procedure to settle the controversy and satisfy its obligation in a single proceeding. See in regard Millennium Multiple Employer Welfare Beneficial Plan 772 F 3rd 634 639 10th Circuit 2014. An interpleader action typically proceeds in 2 stages. See Baruth v. Stellar Recovery Incorporated 2019 WL 4597871 2D Colorado 2019 citing United States v. High-Tech Prods Incorporated 497 F 3rd 537 641 6th Circuit 2007. In the first stage, the court must determine if it has jurisdiction and if the stakeholder has properly invoked interpleader due to facing multiple liability. The second stage, the court determines the respective rights of the claimants to the funds at stake. This motion addresses only the first stage. Zurich is a disinterested stakeholder seeking to pay the policy proceeds into the court's registry and to be discharged from any further obligation under the policy. Zurich, as a disinterested stakeholder of the insurance proceeds, seeks to discharge its liability by depositing into the court's registry the insurance proceeds in the amount of $450,000 and to be discharged of all liability under the policy for the deaths of SW, CCW, and BW. Although an interpleader plaintiff who is disinterested and seeks discharge upon depositing the funds into court is typically granted attorney's fees, Zurich is not seeking attorney's fees in this action. Pursuant to Rule 67 of the Federal Rules of Civil Procedure and D.C. Color L. Civ R 46181, the court may direct that the clerk of the court receive the proceeds in dispute and hold them in any interest-bearing account until they are distributed pursuant to the court's order. A proposed order is tendered herewith. Plaintiff Zurich American Insurance Company respectfully requests that the court enter an order directing that Zurich deposit the policy's proceeds of $450,000 with the clerk of the court for the clerk to deposit those proceeds into the court's registry to be held in an interest-bearing account pending determination of the interpleader action. Zurich is discharged from any and all liability whatsoever related to the policy for the deaths of SW, CCW, and BW. Defendants are permanently enjoined from instituting or proceeding with any action in any state or federal court against Zurich for recovery of any amounts under the policy. Zurich has fulfilled its obligation to each and every person and or entity that could make a claim to the proceeds of the policy. Zurich is dismissed with prejudice from this action upon payment of the policy proceeds of $450,000 into the registry of the court. This dismissal is conditioned upon Zurich's compliance with all subsequent orders of this court in this action, and this dismissal does not affect the claims of interpleading defendants with respect to disposition of the policy proceeds after payment into the court's registry. This action shall continue as among defendants. Respectfully submitted this 11th day of August 2020 by QTAC Rock LLP, signed by David E.K. There you go. The signatures. There we go. There we go. There we go. There we go. And then the certificate of service went to I hereby certify that on August 11, 2020, I electronically filed foregoing unopposed motion to interplead funds into the court's registry for dismissal with prejudice and for permanent injunction, with the clerk of the court using CM ECF system, which will send notification to the following attorneys of record. Well, they've got Hoffman and Hoffman in Colorado, and they've got Belzer and Hoffman, Burnham Law in Boulder, Colorado. Okay, and so the attorneys for the Rzuceks are the Hoffmans, and the attorneys for the Watts are Belzer and another Hoffman. Huh. This is interesting because Brad Hoffman and Elise K. Ritchie, Grant and Hoffman Law Firm at 821 9th in Greeley, Colorado, is the attorneys for defendants Franklin Rzucek and Sandra Rzucek, individually and for the estate of Shanann Watts. You go down, and then it says Aaron Belzer and Ashley Hoffman, Burnham Law. So you see it's Hoffman both. So that's why I assumed it was going to be one for one and then the other. And I'm like, what? Because then it says Burnham Law, and that's at 2760 29th Street, so a whole different thing. But they're, and then in Boulder, a whole different town. Attorneys for defendants, Ronnie and Cindy. So is this Ashley Hoffman a sibling in the family that went away from the firm? She an ex-wife? Or totally unrelated? Either way, got the Hoffman out there saying that they are lawyers. And there we have that. Okay? So, we're going together seeking the truth, asking the questions that need to be asked. And when you hear somebody say that, because the way that this creator piled this in is said that the Watts did this because they felt so inferior, and so the Watts went after this. No. If this is what you're talking about, because this is the closest thing I can see that you're actually talking about, where the Watts are named, they were notified and may be, in fact, the legal beneficiary of that money. It was not dispersed to them because the ruse went too. So if somebody's referring to this, well, it wasn't just the Watts. So how can you say that the Watts felt inferior to the ruse, so they tried to take the insurance money? Because that's what this person's saying. So until all of the village idiots are back in their respective villages and the truth starts coming out, it is 875 of us against millions. But the truth always wins. It's a longer battle. It's an expensive battle. It's not full of riches and all that glitters, but it's what matters. And all of the glitters and gold in the world can't buy happiness. So they can have their money, but I can guarantee you they're not happy. Why are they trying so hard to make sure that the narrative is out there rather than the truth? If it was indeed their daughter's mission in life to make other people's lives better and help them, why wouldn't it be true also that their daughter would want her mistakes, her truth, all to be out there so that it can be understood as to what was really going on and what made her act that way, what made her believe that she too had to adhere to an image, a narrative, a rhetoric about what she was and who she was, rather than being her own self. Why did she have to act like she had so much money when she didn't? Who was she trying to impress? Why is it important for some people to act like they have so much money? Whether they beg, steal, allegedly embezzle, to have said money, what does that say about a person? Somebody has more money than you, does that make them better? Do they get buried with it? Does that money buy a pass into the pearly gates? Keep asking the questions. Keep dropping nuggets of the truth. It matters. It really does matter. And with that, I will leave you alone. This is Sunday night. I'll probably put this out Monday. So tomorrow in the afternoon somewhere. Meanwhile, in real time, you guys are still out there searching for me. So we're getting the good stuff brought up again about, what really happened? What really happened? And believe me, I have so much more to show you guys. I have so much more. I'm just waiting to show it all to you. I have so much more in store to show. As long as you guys stay with me, I'm here. And if nothing else, listening to me will make you poop or sleep, because I have that effect on people, as stated. So, enjoy your poop or your sleep, whichever it is that I have relaxed you to do. And with that, I'll sign out and thank you again for your time and for standing with me and understanding the process of finding the truth and growing with me. Thank you so much. Please make sure that you are subscribed and please like. You guys are helping me so much by going through and liking. The dislikes are really going down. My videos are looking much better now. It doesn't look like I've produced such crap because you guys are really helping me by liking and subscribing. So keep doing so. And I will bring you more information soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.